You know, for pretty much all of us, 911 is more than just a number, right? It's a lifeline. It's this fundamental promise we're all given, that in your absolute worst moment, help is on the way. It's a system we're taught to trust from the time we're kids.
So what happens when that promise is broken? When the call goes out, that desperate plea for help is made, but it's met with nothing? Well, that silence, that's what we're going to talk about today.
Okay, so let's dive right in. We're going to look at three just harrowing true stories. And look, this isn't for shock value. It's about trying to understand how these life-saving systems can actually fail, and what we can learn from the silence they leave behind. All right, so our first story, it takes us to a school parking lot in Cincinnati, Ohio. It's the story of a 16-year-old kid named Kyle Plush, a sophomore whose life ended in this just unbelievable freak accident where help was just minutes away, but it never, ever came. So get this wasn't a car crash or anything like that. Kyle was just reaching for his tennis gear in the back of his family's minivan, and as he reached over, the third row seat flipped over and pinned him. He was trapped, upside down, with the weight of that seat pressing down on his chest, making it impossible for him to breathe or get free. And here's what's so hard about this case. It all comes down to the timeline. His first call came in at 3:16 in the afternoon. By 3:26, officers are on the scene. But just 11 minutes later, they close the incident. Nothing found. And all the while, Kyle is still trapped, still fighting, making another desperate call for help.
So in that first call, and get this, he managed to use Siri to make it. His voice was, well, it was faint. It was muffled because of how he was trapped. The dispatcher had a really hard time understanding him, but they did hear this chilling plea. He knew he was in serious trouble.
Okay, so he's literally running out of time, running out of air, but he makes a second call. And this time, he is crystal clear. He gives them everything they need to know. A gold Honda Odyssey in the Seven Hills parking lot. He basically hands them the exact key to finding him.
And this is the single point of failure that changes everything. That incredibly specific information from Kyle's second call, the make, model, and color of the van, it was never passed along to the officers who were already there. They were right there, but they were basically searching blind.
And then there's this. This is what he said. Among his last words, a final message, delivered to his system that he trusted would save him. His own father found him hours later. Way too late. So what happened after? Well, the city of Cincinnati ended up settling a wrongful death lawsuit with Kyle's family for $6 million. It was a legal admission that the system failed, a failure that cost a teenager his life and led to some major changes in how emergency calls are handled. Okay, let's shift gears to our next story. And this one, it shows a totally different kind of failure. This isn't about one messed up call. This is about years of warning signs being ignored. It's like watching a really long fuse burn all the way down. This is the story of Susan Powell. I mean, look at this list. The red flags were everywhere, and Susan Powell documented everything. You've got her husband, Josh, who is incredibly controlling. Then you have his father, Stephen, who had this just creepy obsession with her, even filming her without her knowing. Susan herself wrote in her journal, "If I die, it may not be an accident." And after she vanished, her own little boy told police that mommy went camping with them and just never came back. For years, the system just didn't connect these dots, and it all just imploded on February 5th, 2012. Now, by this point, Susan's been missing for a long time, presumed dead. Her husband, Josh, the main suspect, is only allowed to see their two little boys, Charlie and Braden, during supervised visits. So during one of these visits, Josh pulls the boys inside his house and slams the door, walking the social worker out. She's on the phone with 911 instantly, and you can just hear the panic. She's telling the dispatcher she smells gasoline. She knows something horrific is happening right then and there. And she was right. In a final, horrifying act, Josh Powell attacked his own sons and then set the house on fire. The explosion killed all three of them. And it was only after this absolute tragedy that prosecutors officially confirmed what pretty much everyone already knew: Josh had murdered Susan years before. All right, our third story it's just hard to wrap your head around. This is a case where help actually arrived. Rescuers were literally standing at the door, and still, a life was lost. This is the story of 76-year-old Loretta Pickard. So you have Loretta, trapped in her burning home in Florida. She just had hip surgery, so she couldn't get out on her own. She does exactly what you're supposed to do. She calls 911. And for almost 20 minutes, she's on the line with a dispatcher. When she hears the sirens getting closer, she asks this, just gut-wrenching question, because she believes help is finally there.
It all came down to time. 8 minutes. 8 agonizing minutes where firefighters are standing outside her house. And for all 8 of those minutes, Loretta is still alive inside. She's on the phone. That was the window to save her.
So why didn't they go in? It boils down to something called procedural paralysis. See, there's a standard safety rule for firefighters. 2 in, 2 out. It's to protect them. But, and this is a huge but, there's an exception to that rule for when there's a known imminent threat to life. Loretta was that threat. They knew she was in there. But that exception, they never used it. Protocol won out over an active rescue. And if that wasn't hard enough to stomach, listen to this. Investigators found out that a fire captain on the scene actually took a Snapchat video of the house burning while Loretta was still trapped inside. It just became the symbol of a complete and total breakdown of urgency when it mattered most. So, 3 stories, 3 different places, 3 absolutely devastating outcomes. But they all share one thing in common. Each one exposed a massive flaw in a system we're all supposed to trust. And because of that, they forced a change.
But here's the thing. As awful as they are, these stories did force real, tangible change. Kyle Plush's death, that led to huge improvements in 911 dispatcher training and technology. The Powell family tragedy, that changed protocols for child services in these high-risk cases. And Loretta Pickard's death, it completely rewrote the rulebook for firefighters on when to prioritize a rescue. So in a way, their losses weren't entirely in vain.
You know, these cases made people look at really uncomfortable truths and fix what was broken. But it really leaves you with a critical question, doesn't it? What other vulnerabilities are still out there, just hiding in the systems we depend on every single day, waiting for the next tragedy to drag them into the light?